That's mine. And I'm going to stick beside him.
And that's what you're going to settle for.
In the courtroom today, an 18-year-old accused of killing his father and his father's girlfriend appeared before a judge for the first time.
Police say that Jaron Morgan killed the couple on Thanksgiving morning, and then went to set the house on fire. Those are the allegations. Our Ashton Hackman in the courtroom today explaining what comes up next in this very heartbreaking case.
On Thanksgiving morning in Indianapolis, Indiana, emergency crews responded to a house fire on North Audubon Road. Inside the residence, they found 36-year-old Meghan Wiekerson and 36-year-old Courtney C.J. Morgan Jr. with fatal gunshot wounds. Both were pronounced dead amid the still smoldering scene. Initial calls had come from reports of a fire. Investigators later identified evidence of ballistic trauma and arson. The victim's 2 young children were present in the home at the time, but were not physically injured. Shortly after the incident, law enforcement identified and arrested 18-year-old Jaron Morgan, alleged to have been involved in the shootings and subsequent house fire, before being taken into custody following a police pursuit. Authorities have charged him with multiple counts, including murder and arson. The case remains under active investigation, with questions about motive, sequence of events, and evidentiary details still pending release. This is Facebook Crime. We deliver clear, factual, and up-to-date true crime stories. Subscribe and turn on notifications to stay informed on the latest cases and investigations. Upon suppression of the fire, first responders located 2 adult individuals inside the structure who had suffered gunshot wounds. Both victims were subsequently confirmed deceased. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department, or IMPD, responded to the scene and initiated a homicide investigation. Law enforcement sources and subsequent public reporting identified the 2 individuals as 36-year-old Meghan Wiekerson and 36-year-old Courtney C.J. Morgan Jr. Both were residing at the Audubon Road address at the time of the incident. Public records and media coverage confirmed that at least 2 young children were present inside the residence at the time of the fire and shooting event. No injuries to the children were publicly reported. Fire crews were the first on site after callers reported the structure fire. Firefighters extinguished the blaze and then observed indications of violence within the interior. IMPD homicide investigators were called to the location to conduct a crime scene assessment. Investigators documented ballistic evidence consistent with gunshot wounds to both adult victims. The configuration of evidence at the scene led detectives to confirm that the deaths were the result of a shooting rather than injuries incurred from the fire itself. Subsequent investigation also evaluated fire patterns consistent with arson, the deliberate setting of the fire following the fatal shootings. Fire investigators and police collected physical evidence to support this assessment and incorporated it into the homicide investigation. Within hours of the initial incident, IMPD issued a warrant for 18-year-old Jaron Morgan in connection with the fatal shootings and arson at the Audubon Road residence. Reports from law enforcement confirmed that Morgan was identified as a suspect based on ongoing investigative developments. Following the issuance of the warrant, police attempted to locate and apprehend Morgan. He was subsequently involved in a vehicle pursuit with law enforcement on Interstate 65. The high-speed pursuit concluded near Lafayette, Indiana, where the suspect's vehicle crashed and he was taken into police custody. Charges filed against the suspect included multiple counts of murder related to the shootings of Meghan Wiekerson and C.J. Morgan Jr. Additional charges, such as robbery, were reported in some local coverage, reflecting the scope of alleged criminal conduct associated with the suspect's actions. Once detained, standard investigative procedures were executed. IMPD homicide investigators obtained search warrants for the residence and any related locations. Evidence collection included forensic analysis of the structure's fire dynamics, ballistic recovery and trajectory documentation, as well as any physical evidence consistent with fatal gunshot trauma. Law enforcement also pursued data from digital sources, including phone records and cellular location information, to establish timelines and potential interactions between the suspect and the victims in the hours and days leading up to the incident. Investigators interviewed neighbors and potential eyewitnesses to reconstruct a chronological sequence of events. Reports included that a friend of one victim was on the phone with Meghan Wiekerson minutes before the incident occurred, providing a narrow window in which the shootings may have taken place. Fire investigators documented evidence pointing to the house fire being intentionally set after the victims were shot. Investigative teams distinguished between fire damage and ballistic injury patterns. Documentation included identification of fire accelerants, burn patterns inconsistent with accidental ignition, and sequencing that suggested the fire was secondary to the shootings. This information was integrated into the homicide and arson investigation. Post-fire forensic examination of the structure also provided investigators with material samples for laboratory testing and chemical analysis to support determinations of arson origin and methods. Following the suspect's arrest and booking, formal charges were filed through the Marion County Prosecutor's Office. Public reports indicated that prosecutors charged Jaron Morgan with multiple counts, including murder related to the shootings of 2 adult victims, arson connected to the setting of the house fire following the shootings, additional counts such as robbery or related offenses cited in some local coverage. The Indiana Criminal Code defines murder as the intentional taking of another person's life, which in this case applied to the shooting deaths of Meghan Wiekerson and C.J. Morgan, Jr. Arson charges were linked to the intentional ignition of the residence after the fatal shootings. Pre-trial procedures included the suspect's arraignment, formal reading of charges, and the setting of bail or custody status. Legal filings and court records were expected to be part of ongoing public filings in the case. As of the latest public records, police had not publicly released an established motive for the killings. Investigators continued to analyze the suspect's background, personal connections to the family, and any historical interactions that might explain the sequence of events leading up to the incident. The case took place in Indianapolis, where overall violent crime trends have been monitored by local law enforcement. While some reporting indicates a drop in youth homicide rates citywide in recent years, non-fatal shootings in the community have remained a concern, suggesting broader public safety challenges involving firearms in the region. Contextual data from crime statistics helped investigators and analysts understand where such events fit in broader violence and fire-related incidents within the jurisdiction. IMPD spokespersons and officers provided factual briefings at the scene and in subsequent media communications. Statements confirmed that the incident involved a shooting followed by a fire, and the suspect was detained after a vehicle pursuit. At the close of the latest public reporting, the case remained under active investigation. Prosecutors continued to prepare for potential trial proceedings. Investigators maintained custody of physical and forensic evidence for presentation in court, including ballistic material, forensic fire analysis results, digital data, and witness statements. Law enforcement agencies also continued to gather investigative leads on motive, suspect-victim relationships, and any possible accomplices or additional criminal conduct tied to the incident. Thanks for watching. Did you find this case informative? If you want more true crime stories, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications.